of the strategy team since inception. At present, I am setting up an investment advisory for clients both in and outside of India for derivative strategies. So that's about me. In terms of QuantStrat, we had set up the instructions on our computers, so QuantStrat here will work perfectly fine. But we had also sent you the details on email on how to install QuantStrat. In case you have already done that and you're facing some issues, you can let us know. I can probably have a look at your setup errors during the break of the session if once we take it. In case you haven't, in that case, probably you'll just have to follow along on the screen and not be able to run the thing on your own box. The best way, of course, would be if you were to run the codes simultaneously while we were walking through them during the session. But in case you haven't installed it and you want to do it later, that's fine as well. In case you've come across any errors while trying to repeat the steps later, please write to us and we should be able to get back and help you resolve it. There is a question on already here which says, how do I test to see if the library QuantStrat is correctly installed? The best way is to just write library QuantStrat where QuantStrat is inside brackets. And if it does not throw you any error, then you are good to go. In case it throws any error, do send it across to me, and in case I can have a look at it during the break, that would probably be the best thing. So the way the session will be is we'll run through a PPT for half an hour or so, where we'll just discuss what QuantStrat is, what it can and what it cannot do, why it makes sense to use it. After that, we'll just give a brief description of the strategy that we are going to backtest, and then the rest of it would be practical run through the strategy on QuantStrat. I believe that most of you would be familiar more with Python as compared to R. That is absolutely fine. In case you are going to pick up one of the two languages, I would suggest the best way to go about that would be to pick Python because it's far more widely covered. Go through it, and once you have a certain level of familiarity with Python, only then try to pick it up in R. So R has certain advantages, but then Python has far bigger audience. So the question is, what do I personally use? I use R because that's the only language I'm familiar with. I never learned Python, and I don't intend to unless they stop supporting R completely. So I am more or less very conversant with R. Therefore, for me, learning another language for at least statistics does not make sense. So most of my work anyway is predominantly statistics oriented. So I don't use Python at all. I'm actually not familiar with Python at all. So I can't even write a single line of code. But apart from that, in general, I would suggest if you are new to programming and you are looking to learn one language, I would suggest that probably at this stage, the best thing to do would be to learn Python and then get back to R later when you have more familiarity with at least one language. Trying to pick up two languages simultaneously may not be the best way to go about it. Other than that, in case you are familiar with R, absolutely wonderful. In that case, you can probably just go ahead and try to run the code and probably experiment with all the questions that are there at the end of the uh, slide set as well, so that you are more familiar with strategies. In case you are fairly familiar with Python and you are looking to expand to R, that's also absolutely fine. And in that case, probably if you want any help, you have any basic questions, you can always shoot us a mail and we'll be there to help you. So having said that, in case you have any installation problems with Quantstrat, could you just write it down on your chat? I will probably not reply to it immediately, but I will run through each question during the break and try to resolve as many as I can. So now starting with this session, the first half an hour would be just this slide set. So let's just go through with it. A couple of things about Quantstrat. Also, there's a question, which is faster, Python or R? I actually don't know, because I suspect that it would depend on the use case that you have, but I don't think you can natively do multi-threading in R. Therefore, I am not sure about Python, but I suspect that you can actually multi-thread there. So it depends. It would depend on problem to problem, but there's a high chance that Python might be faster. I actually can't be certain about it. Right. So in terms of Quantstrat, the first thing to notice is that it is not one of the standard packages that are available on CRAN. Actually, you have to install it from either RForge, or in case you are looking through our set of installation instructions that we had sent, there might be a GitHub link there where you can install it from. Why is it not a part of CRAN is a slightly technical question. It has probably to do with both the level of development that Quantstrat needs to go through before it can be put on CRAN, plus the support that would be needed in case it was to go on CRAN. So there still are some bugs that you might find in Quantstrat, although most of the bugs have already been sorted out, but occasionally when new code is introduced, bugs can creep in. There are active questions that are asked on Stack Overflow or the Reddit links that are there, where people typically ask questions, and in case they are facing any problems, they get on, they put down their questions for someone to look at. There's at least a couple of very good R developers who actively work to support the Quantstrat package along with new development in Quantstrat. So you would reasonably expect to see an answer fairly quickly, unless the question has already been asked, in which case you should be able to find the answer yourself. The most common name that probably you will come across while looking at the packages for related packages to Quantstrat would either be Joshua Ulrich or Ilya Kipnis. Both of them are very actively there and are very helpful in case you need any kind of resolution of an issue that you are facing with Quantstrat. In terms of the dependencies that Quantstrat has, there are a couple of dependencies that it has. The most prominent among them are Blotter and financial instruments. They in turn are dependent on performance analytics, or maybe not, XTS and a couple of other packages. But when we walk through the code, I will just point out the parts where Quantstrat actually is dependent on Blotter and financial instruments, so that you can actually see how it ties up with the entire framework. But just to give you a brief introduction financial instrument helps you define what is the instrument that you're going to trade, and the blotter takes care of all the trading, the P&L, and how to maintain your account or all the other back-end related tasks. So in the part that quantstrat you can look at, the way you can look at it is that there will be a definition part where you'll define what instruments, etc., you're going to trade, when the instrument expire, what's the tick size of the instrument, what's the lot size of the instrument, and all those sorts of information. That goes to financial instruments. You will then need to create a strategy, give it the logic of trading, give it the logic of stop loss, or what's the size of the order. All these parts are handled by quantstrat itself. Then once all these trading, etc., is done, you will still need to figure out what's your profitability, what's your per trade profitability, what's your profitability at the end of the day, what's your equity at the end of the day, per trade, what was the maximum profit, per trade, what was the maximum loss, where any individual trade, how did it behave, what was your win percentage, what was the loss percentage. All these things blotter can be used to handle. So it's quite modular. Even in case you wanted to write your own strategy, did not want to use quantstrat, you could still use both financial instruments and blotter and mix and match and still have a very good framework to deal with. So the framework is flexible and it is modular, both the kind of things that you would ideally like a framework to be, right? So in terms of usability, there are a set of functions that are already defined by quantstrat. What you have to do is to fill in the values inside this function, and your strategy is there. So basically what they have done is they have created a template. Okay, you take this template, fill in values as per your requirement, and then tell the template, now go and run. Whatever the output is there. How does it help you? It helps you in the sense that you do not have to write a transaction cost function. You do not have to write an order sizing function. You do not have to write a function for various order types. You do not have to write a function to compute your equity at the end of the day. You do not have to write a function to, let's say, analyze your trades. All these things are already done for you. What you have to bother about is what is the core logic of my strategy, right? When do I need to, what are the conditions under which I need to buy? What are the conditions under which I have to sell? Your work effectively becomes, at least to start with, I mean, you can always make it far more complicated and take it to a level where quantstrat cannot handle it. But even then, to start with, it's a great framework for you to be able to conceptualize and implement your strategy, right? It takes care of, so the most common strategy development error that I have come across over the years is looking at the future while declaring your signal. So quantstrat, being how flexible it is, does not entirely stop you from doing that, but it makes it difficult for you. So of course, I mean, since it's flexible, you can always go and make it do that. But if you are following the framework well, it is a very difficult task to achieve. And that's a good way of ensuring that whatever strategy that you are backtesting somewhere else, let's say you write you have a C++ backtester, let's say, I mean, so you are working in a huge hedge fund which has its own backtester and everything else. So you have a C++ backtester, of course it's going to be good and everything else, but let's say a new code is introduced, which goes through all the test cases, but there is still a chance that there might be a bug, right? So one way to always ensure that you do not have bugs is to test the answer from two different sources, two different processes giving you the same answer. As long as the two answers match, the likelihood of error keeps on going down, right? The other advantage of Quantstrat is typically for someone who is coming from an Excel background. So someone who's till now been testing strategies in Excel or something, where you can just do probably one instrument at a time, or because you have to drag and drop columns and you have to do everything. So every step that you have to do has to be done n number of times. So if you're testing a strategy for one instrument, even if it's calculating a signal, you have to create a column for each of these instruments separately or whatever. I mean, but the work is far too many, or you have to maintain n number of sheets if you are looking at n different instruments. So whichever way you look at it, what Quantstrat allows you to do is you write one code, you can combine all the instruments together in the same code, or you can run the same code over n instruments separately. But in either case, you do not have to write code n number of times. So your process becomes faster as well as scalable. So the thing is, if you're doing the same steps over and over again, the chance of you making an error is far higher, as opposed to doing the same thing once, testing it completely, and then running it over n number of times. So as long as the first code is correct, there is zero chance that you can replicate the error while running the code n number of times. So that takes care of the generic idea behind Quantstrat. Now the Quantstrat framework. The Quantstrat framework effectively is 4 stages. Of the 4, you see the 3 on the slides set on your right hand side, which is how the flow works. I'll talk about the 4th one as well later. So the first thing that Quantstrat needs you to create is an indicator, right? So what is an indicator? An indicator is just a transformation of the market data to something what you consider as meaningful, right? So it could be the moving average, crossover, it could be the volatility, it could be the ratio of pair of 2 instruments, quotes, of course. So anything, I mean, even the raw market data, any kind of data, you transform it to any form. It could just be what is the amount of volume that has happened on the buy side, what is the amount of volume that has happened on the sell side, whatever. The difference between the two, it could be the quantity standing on the bid minus the quantity standing on the ask. Any number of thing that you can create. It could just, for the simplest case, just be market opening time, right? It is an indicator. The most common indicators that you know are all the technical indicators in the world. They already have the name indicator in their name, right? So that's the first thing. The second thing is a signal. What is a signal? A signal is basically a decision point, right? So in case of moving average crossover, it is the crossover. Moving average A becoming greater than moving average B, that is my signal. In case the market opening is the time equal to 9:15 in India for equities, that is my indicator. That is my signal. In case it is a Bollinger Band where the moving average is crossing the upper band or the lower band, that is my signal, right? In case it is some kind of a market making strategy, wherever my quotes are crossing the market quotes, that is a signal, right? So what is a signal? A signal is an interaction of the indicator with the market data to create an action point. So we first step create an indicator. Second step we create a signal. The third step is a rule. What is a rule? A rule is effectively the action. It tells you, do you want to buy? Do you want to sell? Do you want to take a stop loss? Do you want to take profit? Do you want to do it in size of 1? Do you want to do it in size of 10? Do you want to do it in a size of 100? Do you want a transaction cost of whatever on it? So let's say in India, I think if it's buy, then you don't have to pay STT on the future. If you are selling, then you have to pay STT on the future. So at this action, my transaction cost function will be different, right? So that is a rule. All these three things are understood, right? Do these three completely define a trading strategy? If there is an indicator, if there is a signal, and there is a rule, is your trading strategy completely defined? As per the Quantstrat framework, yes. As long as you have defined these three things, you can run your strategy, you can see the P&L, you can do whatever you want to after now. You can analyze your trades, you can look at each individual trade profitability. But if you develop strategies, you already know there is a fourth step. That fourth step is optimization. You have a certain number of varying parameters in your strategy. In case of moving average, it could just be the number of days. In case of a Bollinger Band, it could just be the distance at which the band has to be drawn. In case it is something that depends on open and close, then what is the time differential from open and close at which you want to do a strategy? In case it is a market making strategy, you want to see at what quantum differential should you quote from the market, right? So existing market is there, you want to place your quotes. Where should you place the quotes? What could depend on a lot of factors. It could depend on what the market volatility is. It could depend on what your present inventory is. It could depend on if your signal gives you a direction, your indicator gives you some kind of a bias to any direction. So given all these things, you might have a quoting price function, right? That function has varying parameters based on if the volatility is high, do you want to quote tight? If the volatility is low, do you want to quote tight? How do you want to write your quoting function? All these things are dependent on a set of parameters. You want to see what is the sensitivity of your profitability to a change in these parameters. You want to know that your strategy is stable around the values that you have chosen. It is not that, let's say, if you choose 21 days for your moving average, your strategy has a Sharpe of 2, and if you choose 22-day moving average, then your strategy has a Sharpe of -2. You already know that you have just probably by mistake found a 21-day time period. There is probably no statistical relevance to your 21-day model, right? You want something where this trading strategy profile changes smoothly, right? So if it happens that your strategy has a Sharpe of 2 at 21 days, 1.9 at 22 days, 1.7 at 23 days, 1.6 at 19 days, then you have a reasonable certainty that yes, this strategy profitability looks smooth to me, and therefore there is a higher chance that whatever I have found, whatever feature I have found around these number of days, it is probably a good feature to explore. Of course, you would have done enough statistical work already to establish that is this moving average even statistically significant or not, but that's a result of, let's say, running a ARIMA model or any of the already known models that you would have probably come across during the other stats sessions that you have had, right? So given that this is the set that we have, the QuantStat package is now more or less explained. Do you have any questions on the parts that we have just done till now? The indicator, the signal, the rule, and the last one where you check for parameters is called param sets. So 4 parts to the framework. Is there any question? There's a question, what about the risk management check? It does not have it. So it allows you to analyze your data, but it does not have any inbuilt functions or for risk management. So you would have to write. Can we then directly connect QuantStat to exchange to trade it directly? And would you recommend it? The answer to that is, can you connect QuantStat directly to exchange and trade it? Theoretically, yes. Would I recommend it? No. R should always be, at least in my opinion, let's put it this way. In my opinion, R is not a trading platform. R is a statistical computing platform. That's what it is best designed for. It does not handle multi-threading, so it cannot be. So one of the bigger problems happens is, how do you deal with data and orders? There are going to be always 2 threads in your trading system. How do you even deal with it? You'll then have to run 2 different versions of RStudio or R or whatever. If you look through the internet, you will find there are existing codes, but they are that other people have written for that. But I would definitely not recommend it other than for prototype testing. So if you want to quickly test your strategy in the live market, just to see for, let's say, the first 10, 20 trades, that how your strategy works. Does it even send out the right orders? Yes, it is possible. To do that, you would actually find a couple of people have written packages that can make RStudio connect to the Interactive Brokers TWS. There is also some code available online where you can directly parse it to QuantStat and analyze it. But other than for quick prototype testing, I wouldn't suggest it as a live trading setup for anyone. That would be too. For that, I would always recommend a good, well-written system that is specifically designed for trading. So it should ideally be a trading system. You shouldn't try to. I mean, so it's like the R has been written and maintained by people who are far more interested in statistics than trading. Trading is just a small subset, and though it can do it, it's far easier and better to work with specialized systems for something like that. Is there any other question? The question is, so we find the strategy first, then developing the system, and not otherwise, right? I am not sure I get the question. So the way, okay, so the way typically the trade flow, the strategy flow for me works is there is a platform for developing the strategy, which is C++. Then there is, so the backtesting part, once done in Quantstrat, and I'm certain that the strategy is going to be live. There are two ways in which I can quickly do that. I can, one, dump the output of Quantstrat into a text file, read it from my trading platform, and try to execute orders and see if that is what the backtest results are matching my life. And once I'm certain with even that, then I'll probably write the entire strategy code in C++ itself, so that there is no link between between the strategy and Quantstrat after that. So that is how it is, but that's because I already have a trading platform. In case you do not have a trading platform, I don't think you should ideally always know what's the trading platform that you're going to use. And typically today, I think almost at least a lot of brokers would actually allow you algorithmic access, so it shouldn't be that difficult. I mean, I certainly for a fact know that Interactive Brokers in the US and a couple of other geographies allows people access to their TWS. There are also a couple of brokerage houses in India that allow them. So I would suspect in almost all geographies there'll be someone. So in case you quickly want to just test and run it on your own, if you work for a firm, then probably the firm should definitely have a trading platform on which you should be able to do that. What about the FNO data for India? Ismail, I mean, that's not a question that has anything to do with Quantstrat. I would suggest that you should send out a mail to the support team, and probably they'll be able to help you with that. If the question is, can Quantstrat handle FNO data? Yes, it has. So basically, if you are creating a financial instrument, you can specify both the expiry date, the lot size, as well as the tick size for any instrument that you are describing. So it can very well handle the data format that you might have been interested. Right. So let's just now have a look at what is the strategy that we are going to run through during the session for simplicity, and so that almost a huge chunk of the participants are familiar with it and they can actually replicate the code that they might have actually seen elsewhere. We look at the daily data, we look at a very simplistic strategy, which is a moving average crossover strategy, right? We take the end day moving average. If the price is greater than moving average for these end days, we do something. If the price is lesser than the end day moving average, we do something else. We also have a volatility filter. So if the volatility is higher than a certain threshold, we just square off all positions, right? The strategy also has a stop loss code. The take profit code has been left to you as an exercise. And then there are a couple of parameters that you can tweak to see what's the change in the profitability of the strategy going to look like. So if you look at this strategy, what is the indicator as per our definition? Our definition is that anything that you compute from a moving average, from the market data is an indicator. In this case, we are computing the moving average, which is our indicator. What is the signal? The crossing point of the close price and the moving average is our signal. In terms of volatility, the threshold volatility at which we square off, that becomes a signal. What is our rule? If the price becomes higher, are we going to buy or are we going to sell? That becomes a rule. When do you take a stop loss becomes a rule. When do you square off becomes a rule. So a description now of the R code that is there, you might already, you can see the code actually if you were to look at the files inside the folder. I think it is called code R2 10.0.1 version. So that is the one that you are supposed to look at. There will also be a CSV file along with the code that you need for the session, that is called Excel file R2 Chris SGX INI. So before we go to writing the R code, I will quickly need to understand how familiar are you guys now with R. You had your session last week, right? For our introduction. And how many of you actually managed to try to run the codes and see how it works and have any level of familiarity now with what is the way in which? Yes, so I mean, so anything new that you might have tried and no. Okay, so I would just assume that uh, the functions that I have specified here are more or less new to you, so I will uh, give a line of explanation for each one of them. But in case you specifically want to know about anything, or if any of the formats look unfamiliar to you, just point it out to me so that I can just give you a slightly more detailed description. Uh, the slide set now has a bunch of exercises and a couple of places where you can look for help in case you are stuck. So just have a look at them, and there is also the last slide, which is just a set of resources that you should look at in case you want to experiment with R. But that makes sense only once you decide to go about experimenting with R. Not and again, as I said, that could be your second language in case you want to be. So now just look at the R code. But before I do that, just a quick check. Um, have any of the online participants tried to install the package and faced any issues? Um, Sorry, the online participants, have any one of you tried to install the package and faced any issues? Okay, no issues. Okay, so what we can do in that case is, what I'd suggest is, let's take a break for 10 minutes now. Uh, the file would be available for you in the download folder on the LMS. It should be titled code underscore R2 underscore V 10.0.1. Are you able to locate the file? Yes, that is the file. How do you open the file in RStudio? Which file are you looking at, Zahid? So ideally, you should be just go to file and just open the file. That should open the file for you. Zahid, could you find the file? Zahid, that's very strange. Okay, so okay, so the other way to do that is, Zahid, there would also be a Word doc that is there. If you could just open the Word doc and copy paste the file from there. Does that work for you? Great. So what we will do is actually let's just take a 10 minutes break so that everyone can look at the file, and then we will just run through the entire R code in that case in just one go in a slightly longish thing. So that would be better, I suppose. So yeah, so right now it's 1646 as per my watch. So let's just return at 1656 and then we can start with the session. And online participants, I would suggest if you could just open the file, the R code on your box, it would be far easier for you to be able to follow it in case you have it open. Uh, right, so let's just take a 10 minutes break now. In case you have any issues that you're facing, just write it on the chat so I can just look at it as well. Sorry? Yes. Yes. Hi, welcome back everyone. Are all the online participants available? And am I audible to all the online participants? Am I audible to the participants? Okay, great. Uh, Excellent. So now we will just look at the R code. In case you are not able to open the R file from the document that was downloaded from the LMS, in that case, there would also be a Word doc which has the same code. Just open the Word doc and copy paste the file on your RStudio console on the top, not the console, but the editor, and you should be good to go, right? So, right, let me just clean up everything on my, so that, right. So now let's just start with the R code. So let's just look at the first line of the code, which says RM list is equal to LS. What does it mean? RM is just remove. LS is just list all the files. So what it tells R is to do whatever you have in memory, just delete all of it. Why do you need to do that? You don't need to do that all the time. You only need to do that. I just do that for the session so that anything that I have saved in memory does not affect the results, or in case there are some errors that I would have corrected earlier and are still existing in the code, those errors do not show up for you but work for me, kind of errors. So what I've done is I just deleted everything from memory. Then if you just look at a bunch of code lines on the code, they are commented out. Hash is the comment character in R. So these lines are commented out. They are just uh, installation files, installation of packages that are needed. So the packages that we need are for uQuantStat, which has a dependency of financial instruments and Blotter, along with it XTS, performance analytics, and QuantMod. Ideally, they should all be installed, but in case so Zahid, the problem is that we could just probably go through it step by step and then see where your error is, because what you have copy pasted is something that comes right at the end of the code and is mostly commented out. So I can't be certain of what you are looking at. Yeah, so let's just wait till the end of the session to look at where this error is, because I just want to go step by step and see, okay, in case you are facing any error at a particular line that we cover, we will have a look at it, right? So I will probably look at your thing at the end of the session, because at least for now, I mean, let's just proceed and see where does the code work for you, and then we will try and find out there. Okay, so the next two, so once you have installed these packages that were there, what you have to do is to read it into R. What's the command for reading packages into R? The command is library, right? So we'll just do a library of quantstat and XTS, so that's there. So do you know how to read a CSV file in R? So the function for that is read.csv. What you have to do is to assign it to a variable. There is the path, this path, the part that I have highlighted on the screen needs to be changed on your box to the exact file path where you have downloaded the file, right? This file name for you should be excel underscore file underscore r2 underscore the rest of it, but that has to be the CSV file that you downloaded from the LMS. This code will not run as is for you because of the name change in file and the location. And then there is this part which says header equal to true, which just tells R that the file that you are reading has a header in it. So once you run this line, and then to look at to inspect the data, you would have probably come across head and tail in the last session. Head shows you the top of the data and tail shows you the bottom of the data. So we just do a head of NIFT and we do a tail of NIFT. Just be certain that none of these head and tail are showing you a NA. Is everyone with me now? Sorry? One second, someone. Sorry.
Delete a part, right?
Yes. No, but the question is, are these commands running for you? The first two, library.
Yes, it is already.
Just run. Okay. So this is. So this are you? Is this location correct? Can you just copy paste this location? Okay. The file exists there. Excel file R2 Chris XGX1. So what is it saying? So oh. Okay, so what you need to do is to replace all your slashes by the other slash, and that should take care of the problem. Where is Right. So the okay, so there is error that people are getting which says some /u hex character. If you are on Windows, the slash convention on Windows is different from the slash convention on Linux. I'm on Linux box, so I'm using a single slash. What you need to do is to put in forward slashes. If you just look at it, this is the kind of slash that you need to put in, the forward slash instead of the backslash. So if you have put in backslashes, yeah, so just replace your slash with the other one, and that should take care of it. So let's, oh, it depends actually. I mean, so I am not certain if the problem happens with all Windows boxes or with certain things. And I don't typically work on Windows, so I can't be certain if it is actually forward slash on all things. But at least in the ones that I saw in the classroom, it works with a forward slash. So I assume that you can just replace it. Because your file does not exist, I suppose.
Apart from
No such file or directory. It does not have a .csv. You have to put in the .csv here because the file name does not have. The file name has a .csv in it. You haven't put in a, and just put into an enter. So are you sure that this is the right location? DEPAT. Wait a second. Just go back. This PC DEPAT 14027. 4702.107 excel slash excel file chris sgs.csv. Okay, just give me a second. This is the thing that you're trying to read. Okay, sure. Home. Oh, not sure. No, home is good. Oh, it's okay. No, just okay. Let's go back. No, just okay. That's fine. So let's just go to, where's the home button? There is home. Yes. And I need to go page up, and then I need to go and let's just go. Cannot open the connection. Cannot open the connection. Read.csv. Can you read any? Oh, because is it? Shouldn't idly be right. Backspace. D. No. So let's just see. Read.csv. Sorry. EPAT. Tab. Tab. Which is the file? No. Okay, that. Tab. This is the file? Right? So it's working at least. So just put in the NIFT equal to here and the header equal to true, which by default. So I think there is something wrong in this. What did you have wrong? Yeah. So if you just no. So just okay. So just okay. So read.csv. Okay, read.csv. Similar? Then no, sorry. Equivalent slash tab. Where? Documents and settings slash where? Sorry. Oh goodness. Okay. This is tab. Where? Dash. Yes. Documents. Dash. Yes.
Contents
Dash. Yes.
TQ02 files.
Shift T. This one?
No,
Or
this
this?
TQ02.
TQ. There is no TQ. There is this and there is TPB. So there is no TQ here. That is why you can't find it. So you have to get the location correct. Most of the errors that seem to be happening are because the location is incorrect. Yes, so yes, I mean, so the best way, of course, is to see how R interprets the string, which is what a participant online is also suggesting. Yes, but since not everyone is familiar with R as yet, the best way right now is to just experiment to see if the forward slash works or the backslash works with two double slashes. So either of them should work. The one way of getting around that is to just use the tab button when you are trying to get R to autofill. So just write C colon or D colon and press a tab. Ideally, R should be able to get you the folder, and then you can just keep selecting the folder uh, through a drop down kind of a thing, which is basically autocomplete. But yes, so that is done now. So we have this. Now what you should do is to just do a head and a tail of NIFT to see if the data is working perfectly fine for you. Can participants who are trying to go through the session confirm that they can see head and tail absolutely correctly? Now, the next line that we are going to do is we are going to format the date. What is the date format that we have right now? Right now, the date format that we have is something like month slash day slash year, right? R typically deals with time format the way the US time format is, which is YYYYDD, YYYYMMDD with dashes in between. So that's where we are going to convert it. The command that we are going to use for that is as.date. As.date takes in the date and converts it to the output of the typical format that R wants it. But for the conversion, it also needs to know what is the format in which the input data is. So you specify a field called format and specify the format of the present data in it, right? So what we have here is NIFT $date, which is the date column, should be changed to as.date with the existing format, which is %m slash %d slash %y, right? So this is what we have done. Now, if you do a head of NIFT, you will see that the date format has changed, right? Why did we do this conversion? We did this conversion because XTS is something that is how Quantstrat stores the market data. XTS expects the date to be in the format that R internally stores. Therefore, whatever date we had to convert it to that format so that it becomes easier for us to deal with dates later. Right. Now we should just quickly see what is the class of our data. So just we do that and it says that our data class is NIFT. was the earlier date in string format? Ismail, it would be character, but yes, I mean, character and string are same. So it was effectively a, so depending on how you read the data, you would sometimes find that R has interpreted as a factor, but mostly you will see it as a character format. Right. How can we check and change our current working directory? In R, you mean? Oh, so the current working directory commands in R are set wd and get wd. So get wd effectively shows you the current directory. Set wd sets the directory for you. So someone asked me what is the command for changing the directory. So that's the command. Zahid, is that clear? Okay. So now we can see, okay, what is our class? The class of NIFT was data frame. Now we are going to convert it to an XTS object. XTS, to convert data frames to, or any two formats in R, is quite simple. There are a couple of functions which are as.xts, as.dataframe, as.vector, whatever, or XTS allows you just to do it as XTS instead of as.xts. XTS expects two things. One, a core data matrix or a data frame or whatever it is. So basically the data part, and a part which specifies what is the date. How do you going to order it? So you tell XTS, this is my data and this is how you're going to order it. So for us, the data is from column number 2 to column number 5. The date is in column number 1, right? So this is how we do it. We say XTS, column number 2 to column number 5, order by column number 1. Yes. The date that you saw was not okay. Right. So XTS will do it automatically for you. Now you will see the date now comes from 2013. So the question was, the date earlier was in reverse chronological order. Do we have to do anything to make it chronological? The answer to that is XTS automatically does that for you, so you don't have to handle it. XTS always arranges data in a ascending time series format. And XTS also handles millisecond time level timestamp. So even if it is millisecond, it will do that for you if it is needed. So that's done. So now we have our data set, which is called XTNifty, which is basically a XTS object. Does that work for everyone? Okay. Now we will create a new variable and call it capital Nifty. Okay. Why do we do that? We do that because later in our code, we are going to use an instrument called Nifty. That instrument or that name needs to be an XTS object with market data inside it. So I just created it. I can do that later. I can do it now wherever I want to, but I just decided to leave the line here. But you don't need to have the line here. You can have the line later as well. So I just create another variable, called it capital Nifty, and assign the data to it. Okay, now we are going to look at the function that we are going to use to get the moving average, the volatility filter, and the buy point and the sell point and all the other things. So we effectively write a function. The thing is, this function is slightly useless as of now. I mean, the function exists, it works perfectly fine and everything else. But the thing is, it just computes a moving average and does a crossover. R automatically supports a lot of this. So you can just use an inbuilt R function that would have done it for you. You did not need to write a function of your own. But I've written the function here so that you just need to change this bit of code for anything far more complicated, right? So for now, the function will look more or less superfluous or useless or to you. But if you want to write the way functions are in this language called R, they are defined by this keyword called function. There are a bunch of inputs. The output, you do not have to explicitly say. Whatever the last line of your code is can be an output, or you can just say a return of whatever value that you want to return. So explicit, implicit, whatever kind of return that you want, you can do that. What is this? What is our idea of the function? Our idea of this function is it gets the market data, right? It gets the number of days over which it's going to compute the moving average. It gets the volatility threshold at which it's going to square off positions. So volatility threshold is just a concept here which says that if the volatility rises greater than X%, I want to, not percent, as of now I haven't even made it a percent, I just said if it rises above a certain number, just square off everything. Whatever number you want to choose. Yes. Right? So the question is, why do we have that volatility filter threshold? It is just a demonstration, right? This is something that you may want to completely omit, right? It has nothing to do with any kind of the strategy details that we are talking about. It is there for a demonstration saying that you can also do that, right? Typically, the concept comes from market making, where if you have too high a volatility in the market, you would ideally want to sit it out, right? You want to probably get rid of your positions and just want to sit out till the volatility. But then in the expression X equal to Nifty, do we get a new copy of Nifty object? Yes. We have a new object called X, which has data, which is Nifty. Why do I have that? That is just a way so that you can test your function if you want to. right? Right. And then the last input parameter that you see to the function is a threshold 1. What is this threshold? This threshold is the threshold by which your current price has to be higher than or lower than the moving average price for you to be able to take a position. So as soon as the crossover happens, you do not take a position. You take it only after it crosses, it is higher than the price or lower than the price by a certain fraction. In this case, the number is 1% or whatever number that you want to send out, right? As of now, if you look at the code, it looks like 1%, but we can change it when we send out. So when we call the function, we can call it with different numbers. So we'll call it with a different number, right? Now, the name of the function is transform data. The inputs to the function are x, SMA underscore length, vol underscore filter, and threshold underscore 1, right? X is our market data, and the rest of the names are more or less obvious. Now, are you familiar with the function roll apply? Roll apply is a moving window function. So let's say if you want your window length to be n number of days, and you want to compute the min or the max or the mean or the standard deviation or whatever else you want to compute, this function will compute it first for day number 1 to day number n, then from day number 2 to day number n plus 1. So it is a moving window of length n. So our first line says x dollar SMA is equal to roll apply CLX function mean width equal to SMA underscore length. What R will interpret it as is this. I need to create a new column in X. That new column will be called SMA, right? I need to assign to this column the value on the right hand side. The value on the right hand side says for a width of SMA underscore length, compute the mean of CLX. A column called close in X, compute the mean for 21 days. Whatever the answer comes out to that, assign it to a column called SMA. So let's just, okay, we can't run it because it's supposed to be a part of the function, but just so that I can demo it, I will show it to you by just declaring X is equal to nifty, SMA underscore length is equal to 20. Control enter. Right. Oh, smile. Okay. So the way it works is this. If I wanted to access the close column, I would have idly called X dollar close and not close X. There is no function called close. There is, though, a function which is called capital C small l. And if you want to see where the function comes from, it comes from quant mod. Okay. So that is why it's CLXN. What is the purpose of line number 60? Could you just tell me what line number 60 is? Because for some reason because of some changes that I might have made, my line numbers may be different from yours. Oh, my line 60. We will come to it. First, we are still at line number 59. So now that, okay, so let's just see what is X before I run the SMA line. X is basically Nifty, which is basically the date and the open, high, low, close column, right? Now I run line number 59, which says X dollar SMA is equal to roll apply. And now I look at head of X again. You will see that the first couple of values are NAs. Why are those values NAs? Because since my SMA length is 20, for the first 20 days, you cannot compute the moving average, right? So now what should happen is I should look at X comma 20. The first value that appears is at 20, right? Now, line number 60. What does line number 60 do? If you see the difference between line number 60 and line number 59, there is just one difference. What is the difference? The function has changed from mean to SD. What is SD? SD means standard deviation. So in line number 60, what I compute is a n-day standard deviation of the price. Why do I do that? We will come to line number 61. We still haven't reached line number 61. I will do that. So the question is, I just call this variable oh, why is the name vol for line number 60? Why shouldn't it be STD? So the thing is, yes, you can choose whatever name you want. I mean, there is nothing that stops you from choosing standard deviation. There is nothing. I mean, I just interpret the standard deviation as the volatility, and the short form for volatility that I typically use is vol. Therefore, I just put it as vol. I mean, there is no need for you to call it vol as well. You can call it anything. Yeah, so the names are immaterial. I mean, names don't matter much. So you could choose whatever name you want. That's immaterial, honestly. So the next column, if you look at it, calls itself vol filter. Again, it's just a short form for volatility filter. Can be any name that you choose, nothing like that. What does it say? It says if the vol that I have computed in the previous step, right, is greater than a certain number, something is 1, else 0, right? But before that, there is a function which is called if else. This part. Now, if else, everyone is familiar with if and else statements separately, right? They are a part of every programming language that exists. If else is a vector implementation. What does a vector implementation say? A vector implementation is the output is not one number but a vector. So it's a set of values. So how does it work? It works in a way a drag and drop in Excel works. It computes for each of these rows. For each row, it has an answer, and each answer gets assigned to the corresponding row, right? So the condition is evaluated. If the condition is true, the first value is picked up. If the condition is false, the second value is picked up. This happens for each row. Therefore, there is a vector of numbers, right? This vector is now assigned to the value that you have described on the left. So the value on the left that I have described, I have called a new column, which I call wall filter. This condition is checked for each row, and for each row you get a 1 or a 0, right? Unless there is a NA in the name. In that case, the comparison cannot be done. Therefore, the answer will be NA, right? So let's just see what the output of this is. Line number 61. Now let's just see head of X. Now let's just see head of X, comma 20. It has computed the mean. It has computed the volatility, and it compares this volatility against the threshold, which I have here said 2000, and if the number is greater, it just says 1, right? Now, I have again declared a variable called ES. That variable ES is, in my world, just a shortcut for entry signal. Okay. So what does that line say? Those two lines, to be precise. The first line tells you, if my close price or the close column is greater than the value in the SMA plus a fraction of the value, right? So 1 plus X into SMA. What is X? X is, let's assume, a percentage, right? So if it is 1%, the number becomes 1.01. So if the close price is greater than 1.01 times SMA, assign a value 0, assign a value 1, right? Else assign a value 0, right? The next line says, if the value is lesser than 1 minus X percentage SMA, then assign a value -1, else keep the previous value, right? Can someone explain line number 2? Why is that the way it is? So why is line number 63 not similar to line number 62, but slightly different? Can you see the difference actually? Sorry? Yes, you are correct, as in that's the difference. The difference is in -1 and or the previous value, right? So that's the point. So the entry signal should either be a 1 or a 0 or a -1. There are 3 values that are possible. The first one picks up between the first and the second value. The second one picks up between the existing value and the third value. So the signal becomes +1, 0, or -1. There is another variable defined in the next column, which is called EXS. The way I have defined is,
Sir, can you rationale why maybe one or below above why you put in not X ES?
okay, so the question is again to explain line number 63. Okay, so think about it. The price can be greater than 1%, can be less than 9 minus 1%, or it could be between the two of them. So if it is greater than 1%, I want it plus 1. If it is lesser than minus 1%, I want it negative. But if it is between minus 1 and plus 1, I want it to be 0. So I have three values. How do I choose between the three values? First case, I look at it and say, okay, if it is plus 1%, the value is 1. If it is less than 1%, right, it could be 0 or it could be minus 1. But I cannot figure out if it is minus 1 unless I put in another if condition. So there are three conditions that are possible. The price is greater than 1%, is less than 1%, or it will be 0. So now there are two conditions to check. In one line, I can just check one condition. So the first condition I check is it greater than 1%? If it is greater than 1%, it is plus 1. If it is less than 1%, it could be 0 or it could be minus 1. I can't distinguish between these two, right?
I got it. Can be either ES because it can be 0 or 1. So
It could be 0, 1 or minus 1. But right now I can just distinguish between 1 and 0. So I put in next time, if it is 1, I still want to keep it at 1, right? If it is 0, it may be minus 1, right? So you good. So now, so line number 64 is just a replication of line number 61. And yes, that is what the thing is. This is basically there just to carry on with the convention that I decided to write for the names. You can do it in a couple of ways, but that's okay. I mean, uh, so you could have just here written that wall filter equal to 1, and therefore you put it at 1 or 0, or you can just remove this line. It actually doesn't matter. You can have this in any way you want. As of now, it is just fine, right? So just creating a new column and calling the column EXS, which is just a short form again for exit signal. These names are non-mandatory. You can have any name for them. That's okay, right? Now, if you look at X, if you look at X now, there are a couple of NAs, right? Ideally, you do not want to deal with the NAs, so you want to put some value inside them. How do you do that? There is a function in R which is called is.na, which just returns you the true or a false. And then there is a function in R which is called which just returns you the locations of true values. So you combine the two functions and you say wherever, basically which, the value is na, put that value to 0, right? Because 0 is not going to trade. So you can safely put it as 0, right? So this is what these two lines do. They pick all values from EX and EXS which are 0 and make them NA. So now if you look at X, you see that all those values that were NA have now become 0. Right? And the last line is just X. I could have written return X. I could have just written X, all the same for R. And this completes our function, which we have called transform data. Now, the parts that start are specific to 3 packages: financial instruments, Quantstrat, and Blotter. Just to remind you, financial instrument was declaration of the instruments. Quantstrat was the declaration of the strategy. And Blotter was managing positions, profitability, and account and everything else. Right? So what do we need to start with? We need to declare something called Nifty, right? That's what we are going to trade. What would the declaration of Nifty require? What would the declaration of Nifty require? It can require a lot of things, or you might just do a minimal thing and say, okay, I'm just declaring something which is an equity, which is Nifty, right? Its name is Nifty. That's all. You can probably go a step further and say, I'm declaring something which is equity. Its name is Nifty. Its tick size is 0.05. You can also go a step further and say, where the lot size is 50 or 1 or whatever, you can also go a step further and say the currency for which is INR. As soon as you say the currency for which is INR, now you need to first define INR, because how does Quantstrat know what INR is? What is INR? INR is a currency. So first you need to define a currency which is called INR. So you define INR, you define Nifty, right? Then what do? Then we are going to create a symbol. What is the symbol? This symbol is something of the type equity. What other information it has? It has information like how many lot, what is the maximum position, what is the minimum position. Once I have the symbol, what do I need? I need a portfolio, right? A symbol can be a part of a portfolio. Many symbols can be a part of the portfolio, right? Then if I have a portfolio, what do I need to define? I need to define an account. Many portfolios can be a part of an account. So what do I have? A currency, a stock, a portfolio, a account, right? This is the entire set of things that from a trading perspective, if you think about it, you should have to go about doing something. You may or may not need all of it, but if you think about it, that's how you would ideally design it. So let's see. The first line, we define currency and call it INR. The second line, I just declare another variable, call it symbol. This is nothing to do with Quantstrat. This is just a name. Next thing I define is a stock, right? With symbols. This symbols is the same as the one that I've defined here. So I could have either put in Nifty like this, inside quotes rather, or I could have just put in symbols. I just put in symbols there without the quote status, right? Then I put in currency equal to INR. Stock is just one stock. Portfolio is a collection of stocks. And a multiplier, which is basically the lot size, which is 1. So this is what my stock is. So my stock by the name Nifty is now created. I just set in the environment, which is okay, that is immaterial. Now, there is something that you need to know. For blotter to work correctly, a blotter has to be initialized. Okay, currency INR, is it a function or a variable? You can just quickly see by just looking at typing currency. Currency is a function for financial instruments. So you have defined a right? So if you type in INR, you see you get an error. But when you say currency equal to INR here, it gets this currency. Right? So yes, so blotter needs to be initialized. It is initialized among other things by also the date. One point of error that is very common is initializing blotter with a date that comes after the date of any of your trading signals. So let's say your first trading signal comes on 1st of January and you initialize blotter from 7th of January, there is going to be an error. The error is very difficult to catch because blotter gives you an error which is absolutely meaningless because it goes and fails at some random point. So the good thing to do is to get the first date of your data and initialize blotter from that date. Right? So get symbols gets you the data which is inside symbols, which is Nifty. So it gets you the data inside Nifty. Index picks up the date index of it, and the first picks up the first date. So I put it here, and if I just look at it, init date is 2013 October 1st, right? Then I need to define a couple of other variables that I'm going to use later. What are these variables? These variables are whatever the moving average period, the SMA, the order quantity, everything else. All these are variable names that have been defined by me. They could have been any names, right? I just put them by a dot in front of them so that I can distinguish it from the function variables. Okay. Now, I also define the leverage, the initial equity, and all the other things. Again, names that have been put in by me. Most of them, I just declare it as 0 because they are meaningless from my perspective for now. Now, every time you run a strategy in QuantStrat, some variables are stored inside the environment of R. Blotter segregates its own environment and places variable inside it. So you need to just clean up that environment, which is what you do by the rm command again. Then you need to create what? A strategy, a portfolio, and an account, right? You name them all Nifty Long Short. You could have said Nifty Long Short strategy, Nifty Long Short account, and Nifty Long Short portfolio. different names, that is, it would also have been fine. There is no need to name them all the same. I'll just name them all the same. Now, since it is a possibility that I could have created another strategy by the same name, Ismail, is dot a part of the variable name? In this case, yes, because I am declaring them as such. Those are my function, those are my variable declarations. The dot just tells me that I have declared it. So it is possible that the last time I ran the strategy or some other strategy, I named it similarly. So I should just remove the strategy by this given name so that everything now is blank. Now, what do I still need to initialize? I have given the names of portfolio, strategy, and account, but I haven't still declared them. How do you declare them? You declare them by init portfolio, init strategy, no, sorry, init portfolio, init account, init orders, and then strategy. So those four lines will take care of that. So let's just start with it. Init portfolio. What does portfolio require? Portfolio requires what symbols? What is the name of the portfolio? What is the currency? What is the date from which you are running it? Right? So here is the portfolio name. Here is a list of symbols. In this case, we just have one symbol. But if you had more than one symbol, all you had to say was symbols 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, whatever. The date and the currency. So here it comes. Account. What does account have? Account has multiple portfolios. So you specify the account name and then you just specify portfolios, whatever number of portfolios you want. Then you specify the date, you specify the currency, and you specify the initialization equity, right? Account has to have some money to start with, right? For now, I've just put it as 0, but sorry. I need to, because it already exists, I need to just run it from scratch again. Right. Then what do you need to do? For each portfolio, you need to initialize orders. So that's what I do. I initialize orders, and then I'd say strategy, which initializes my strategy now. Which strategy is initialized? It's the strategy by the name strategy.st. What is strategy.st? Strategy.st is Nifty long short. Okay. Now that you have a portfolio which has orders, you also need to give every symbol a position limit. You can't have infinite positions, right? You have to tell it what's the maximum long, what's the maximum short positions that anything can have, which is done by add pos limit for the portfolio, for the symbol. You have max pos. If you look at it, it could also have max min pos, right? So this is done. Now, what do we need to do? We need to add signal. Why do we add signal?
You put in order quantity next to order quantity. So it means that with the subject, you will take only one order.
Sorry, come again.
You put in the position limits
Yes.
as max cost equal to order quantity dot order.
Max cost is equal to dot order quantity. What is dot order quantity?
You put in one.
Yes.
So it will not scale up if the strategy is seen again.
Yes. So it will just take one position at any given point of time. +1 or a -1? Both. Right. So we need to define signal, but how can we go to signal before defining indicator? Right. So we define a indicator. How do we define an indicator? So in QuantStrat, typically all these functions, add.indicator, add.signal, add.rule, they all work on a simple principle. One principle is they have to have a name. Okay, everything has to have a name. The reason for that is what QuantStrat internally does is it takes your data and keeps adding columns to it for every thing that you have told it to do. When it's adding column to it, it gives the name of the column by the name that you have specified in that line. So that is why every line in the framework has to have a name. Okay. The second thing that it needs to have is something that tells it what it's supposed to do. Mostly that is a function. In some cases, it is a function defined by you. In some cases, it is a function that has been internally defined inside QuantStrat. Now, once you are defining this function also takes parameters, right? So you have to tell it what are the parameters that this function is going to get. Is this clear? It has to have a name, it has to have a function, and it has to have the parameters that the function needs. So first we are going to add a indicator. What is the function that we are going to use for adding an indicator? That is the function that we had defined. That function we called threshold. Sorry. Yes, sorry, transform data. That's the function that we called. So that's the function that we are going to call. So we call this add indicator for the strategy. Now look at it. Name transform data. This name transform data is the name of the function. Okay. At the end is the label. That is the label of this column, right? Name is the name of the function that you are going to call. Label is the name of the column that's going to be there. And in between you see arguments, which are the parameters that need to be passed to the function. Yes. Yes, of course. Yes.
Here we have put in some SMA length.
Yes.
It is 20 which we have defined.
Yes.
And dot SMA length we have defined as 50.
Yes. So if
Transform data we have defined SMA length is equal to 20.
so in no, wait a second. Okay. So the idea behind writing functions is that you should be able to call it with different variables. So you should be able to call it by 20 days. If you want to call it by 50 days, you should be able to call it by 50 days. What this does is it calls transform data with a SMA length equal to dot SMA length, which is 50. So when this function calls transform data, it will call it by 50 days. So the moving average that will get calculated would be 50-day moving average, not 20 days. Same is true from Wallis threshold. Yes. Right? So the advantage is that you can change the parameters. You already see how the parameters can be changed. So you already know when optimization has to be done, what is it that is going to change so that you can optimize. Right? So this is how it ties up. Okay, what is quote market data, right? So quote market data, so let's look at quote. It is a function. So if you do quote Nifty, you get Nifty. So that is what it sends you. It sends the name. Okay, market data. Market data in QuantStrat is equal to the name of the symbol. So let's say you had okay, so that is easy to check, Ismail. So what you can do is you can just quickly see class of quote Nifty and just says name. If you want to get the object by the name, then what you are supposed to say is sorry, you are supposed to say yes, not get Nifty, but get where symbols is basically Nifty as character. But anyway, that's beside the point. That's not what I meant to do. So we were back to market data. Market data is an object inside QuantStrat which has the data for any particular instrument on which it is running at that point of time. So the same indicator can be run on 20 different instruments. Every time it runs, right, the market data will change as per that instrument. So that is how, so let's say if you want to run the same strategy on 20 different instruments in parallel, right? This allows you to even do it parallelly. So if you want to do it in parallel on 4 different instruments, it will, each one of them will have its own name and each one of them will have its own data. So now I come here and I add an indicator. Similarly, I add signals. What do I need to add signals for? I need to add a signal for buy. I need to add a signal for sell. So what do I say? When ES equal to 1, buy. When ES equal to -1, sell. That's what I need to do. But what is the name of the function that I'm going to give this time? Each line has a name, a function, and a list of parameters, right? What is the name of the function? In this case, the functions that I'm going to use are inbuilt functions by QuantStrat, and these functions start by the name sig. So there is a function called sig comparison, a sig crossover, a sig formula, a sig peak, a sig threshold, and a sig timestamp. The one that I am using is called sig threshold. Okay, so I have signal. The function to use is sig threshold. The parameter list that I want to pass it is the column against which to compare and the threshold value, right? There is also a couple of things which says that do you want to do a crossover or do you want to do a equality? So I just say just check for equality. You could also say less than. In that case it becomes LT. It could say greater than, then it becomes GT. In case it's greater than equal to, it becomes GET or something like that. So that is all the names that you can have. This has a label long, the other one similarly. For -1 it has a label which is short. Similarly for EXS being equal to -1, I have an exit long and an exit short. So I have 4 signals. I just run them all together, right? Now what remains? Rule, right? You've already done indicator, you've already done signal. Yes.
Sir, -1, and then again 1, 1.
Because it's comparing column, the column has changed. EXS does not have a -1. If you look at the threshold function, the transform data function, EXS was only assigned the value of +1. Right? Now the entry rules. Entry rules again have a function which is a const defined function called rule signal. What does it do? It says, okay, look at this column, tell me the value is positive or negative, and in case whatever it is, do you want to send out an order? If you want to send out an order, what's the quantity of the order, what's the type of the order, and all the other things. So what does it say? It says, okay, add rule, to which strategy the name of the function is rule signal. Then just look at the argument list. Look at the argument list. It is column, which is long. If the value is true, you want to send out an order of the side long, of the type market, of the quantity this, at the price this, and you will give it a role, new name, which will be how to tree the order. So there are a couple of variables that you don't need to understand right now. So it's okay. So it basically tells you if the column long is true, send out a long order. Next time it says if the column short is true, send out a sell order. If the column exit long is true, send out a order of the type market, where the type is exit. Okay. Then there is a stop loss order where the type is chain, and the parent order for that is enter long. Okay, so it knows which order do I need to track as a chain for my stop loss, because the stop loss depends on the maximum profit. So it must know which is the order according to which it is going to track, right? So these are the things that you need to know. So we add the entry rules, we add the exit rules, we add the stop loss rule. and it is with Python. To be able to do all of this would take a lot of code and classes. I am not familiar with Python, so I can't be certain of that. But I think if you would have attended the session on Blueshift, that is our platform for backtesting, it allows you to do all this with lesser code because it handles a lot of the framework itself. So I suggest that if you want to do it in Python, you should look at Blueshift and try to do it. You can probably contact the support team if you want any help on Blueshift. I'm sure that that should be possible. And now the fun part has come. Now you can just apply the strategy. You apply the strategy and the strategy just gives you a bunch of orders that are executed. And this is it. You have all the trades that have done. Now you want to see information from these trades, right? So what do you want to see? Let's see. We first start with, and we go and see, okay, let's just look at our order book. This is what our order book is. The first order got triggered on this date of this side. The order kept on moving, the trailing stop loss. So these are the total number of orders that got executed. This is what your trading blotter should look like if you are running it in live. Right? Now, let's say you want to see what is the profitability and everything else. For that, you need to understand that you now need to interact with Blotter, right? That Blotter package that we talked about. To interact with Blotter, first you need to give all the information to Blotter. How do you do that? You do that with these functions: update portfolio, update account, update equity. So this is done. Let's just see what happens if we want to plot. So there are 4 charts here. The first chart is the market data with our buys and sells plotted. The second is our position at any given point of time, right? Along with the trades marked. The third one is the profit chart. The fourth one is our drawdown chart. Right? Now, this is plotting. Now you want to probably see it in the tabular form as well, right? This is the table. It gives you what is the total number of trades that have happened, what are the total number of profitable trades, profit factor, and all the other information that you want to see. Let's say you want to do something with some part of the data itself, right? So you want to just look at the equity and draw the chart instead of the inbuilt chart that was there. That you can get by this using of this function called get account, account data, dollar summary, dollar end equity. So you can actually see get account gets you the account. After that, whatever you want to extract, you can just extract by dollar sign. So that is what you can do. And you can just do a chart on your own which just draws the equity chart. So that's Quantstrat for one given set of parameters, right? That works perfectly. Now, what if I want to change these parameters? Yes, sorry, there's a question. No, go ahead.
When we were defining the rules,
Yes.
we saw something, there's something called as exit rule. When it falls below that, then it is stop loss. And we are putting some rule sell. And then there's something called as trailing stop loss. We have defined something called as trailing stop losses. And previously we have not defined anything.
Oh, those stop losses will be trailing stop losses. They're not fixed stop losses. You can have fixed stop losses and trailing stop losses. The one that I have specified most likely would be trailing stop loss. Let's just go quickly see.
It's trailing stop loss,
Yes.
but previously in our formula we have not defined trailing stop loss. How it should be.
Oh, it would be actually. So if you look at this trailing stop loss rule, the order type, if you look at it, it is stop trailing. So what do we need? As long as you specify it as stop trailing, it will be a trailing stop loss.
And if I don't understand, I will
Okay. So there are two forms of, so it could be a fixed stop loss, in which case you just say a stop loss order. This is a trailing stop loss in which it keeps track of the maximum profit in the standard way in which, and it would also have a variable, which is dot stop loss that you see here, the one that I've highlighted. That dot stop loss is, I think, 0.5%, 2.5%, this variable. So if it falls by 2.5% from the maximum peak, it will take. Right. Now we need to see the sensitivity of the strategy to our, that requires us to define something. Now, there is a parameter, a fixed value of the parameter. Now we want to see if I change these parameters, what happens? For that, I have to change these parameters, right? So what these changed numbers are, I have to store it somewhere. So again, the same dot format I have done. I have a dot SMA length, which is basically the changed values of SMA. So it could be 25 days, it could be 50 days or 75 days. Similarly, threshold, it could be 1%, 2%, 3%. Similarly, the volatility threshold, which could be 25,000, 26,000, 27,000, whatever values you want. Now, what we do is we add distributions. Now, what does distribution require? Distribution is slightly different from the rest of the functions. It requires, in the earlier functions just required one thing, right? Actually, they required three things. One was the function, one was the name, and one was the set of parameters, right? What do distribution functions require? Distribution functions require a name, that's fine. They require which function, which variable, and what distribution, right? Because a function can have more than one variables. So it needs to know the function as well as the variable. Now, what is the distribution function for this variable? So what's the distribution? So it requires, instead of two things, it requires three things. Sorry, inside the function plus the name. So there are one extra variable, right? So add distribution to the function transform label, which is of the top of the type indicator. I need to change the variable SMA underscore length. Next one, I need to change the variable threshold. I need to change the variable wall filter. What is the distribution that I need to get? Dot SMA length, dot threshold one, dot threshold. So just let's run it. I add the distributions. Then just the way I did apply strategy or run strategy, I do apply param sets, and it starts computing for 3 into 3 into 27 different runs of the strategy. It will just do it for me and give me the answer. You may need a package called for each. For each allows you to run it in parallel. In this case, I have not run it in parallel, so it's sequentially doing it. But since it is possible to do these things in parallel, therefore it is okay. Just a word of caution, I definitely know this can be done on Linux. Given that Mac is reasonably based somewhere around the Linux lines. I'm certain that can be done on Mac. On Windows, it depends. It may or may not be possible to do it in parallel. I can't guarantee that if you run the code and try to run it in parallel, it will definitely run. It, depending on your environment, it may fail. So now that it has run, I store the results, and this is what I get as answer. Huh. Yes. What error are you seeing? So if you're getting any error related to ITER, just install for each. For each. So there would 3 values. Yes. Okay, now even I am getting an error which says, why does this happen now? Okay, so something has gone wrong with my setup as well today. So I am unable to run it. Or do parallel or one of those packages, which I can't be certain of which one is what. Oh no, Ismail, the thing is, it was a warning, but it did not give me 27 outputs. Ideally, it should give me 27 outputs. It was just giving me 9 outputs, so something was wrong. So yes, so the thing is, even if you, sorry? So yes, so this is what will happen. You will get a table of 27 results, and you will be able to see which set has the maximum profitability, which one has the lesser profitability, what's the kind of distribution that it is. Control A, Control Enter. Control Enter. Okay, so the 27 things have been run. Now let's just do, and these are my 27 results. For each change in SMA, each change in the move threshold, each change in the volatility threshold, this is what the average gross profit is, the net profit is, the standard deviation of trace, and everything else, whatever you want to know. that is summarized. So that is it. That is there for the session from me. In case you have any questions, now is a good time to I occasionally can't solve problems for Windows, but because I haven't used it in a really long time. But the problem is ITER could not be found. So if you could not find, just go up. Just go up. There is a package thingy called for each. Just do install.packages for each. Just do library for each. Now run that line. No, you can't. Just you have already added the distribution. Just run the last line, apply. No, just line number 194. Now, okay. So just do install.packages. Do just all these three. Yes, install.packages do parallel. You are also getting error with ITER.
I added installing so that it rebooted everything.
Mm-hmm.
And now when I'm doing control O, and it gives me this error in get portfolio.html.
Long shot not found. Okay, because okay. So I would
install the do parallel package.
Do parallel, yes. Okay, so no, just wait a second. No, there are errors, right? Okay, so let's just go up. Sorry, did you get anything? Install.packages do parallel not found. Okay, control enter. There are errors here. If not found. This cannot be found. No, because this location is not. Just change the location. Sorry. Okay. Library. No. Oh yes. Enter. Yes, it is doing iterators this time, so that should work now. Let's just see results. Oh goodness, something else went wrong. So at least ITER is found by do parallel. Okay, just rerun it once from scratch. Control enter. Oh, something is wrong. You have missed something. Let's do it in parts in that case. Do a shift.
I can copy paste it here. Maybe something else is typed here or something like that.
No, this is correct. So, shift. Nifty not found. Just declare Nifty. Probably that line is commented out. Nifty, this. Oh, it is. Then why is Nifty not getting? Let's write head Nifty. Capital NIFT. Yeah, it's not. So just rerun it from. Okay. Yes, sure. Okay, so there are a couple of questions. Can you talk about the data quality? I am not sure exactly what you mean. And the second question is, can you debug the strategy? I am again not certain. Could you just clarify on both these questions, I could probably be able to help you on that. There is another question on line number 60. How does CL know which column to work on? Oh, because that is the definition of CL. It's not anything else. If you just look at CL function, this is what it does. If it has a closing column, it greps close from the column names and finds it. Sorry, yes. Could you just repeat these two questions with slightly more detail? I'm not able to figure out where exactly. The question about the talk about data quality and debugging the strategy. Sorry? Do parallel, I think, for him worked. Do parallel. The file. Okay, sure. I will ask them to do that. I will ask the support team to do that. Sure. Okay, this is a new error. I will have to look at it. Could you just mail it across to me? I will probably have to look at it. This is an absolutely new error even for me. Oh, it totally depends. I mean, Python, more or less, Python and R are interchangeable today. So I don't think you really need to learn. I mean, probably 5 years back, it would have been a great thing to know R. Now it is just okay. I mean, if you know R, good. If you don't know R, that's all right. More or less, Python can take care of whatever needs you have. So you need to know one programming language that you can use for backtesting, Python or R. At least one of them has to be there. Is there a global object where all this is collected into which we can expect? Yes, there is a global object where you can actually see where each column is getting populated, etc. I will have to get back to you on that. I can't exactly recall the name of the object now. If you actually apply the indicator, etc., there is a new object created with the columns. I have it somewhere in one of my codes. I should be able to get back to you on this. could you just again mail the support team so that they can track it out with me? But every line of constat code that you write adds a column to a data frame to a XJS object and stores it. So yes, you can actually go and inspect it. Are there any other questions? There seem to be none. So in that case, thank you everyone for your time, and have a great weekend or whatever you are left with after the classes. So thank you very much. A different instrument. Smile, in that case, just write another strategy and run it for a different instrument. That's okay. I mean, I don't think you can merge two different strategies in the same portfolio. You'll have to run two different strategies, as in you will have to declare two different strategies and you will have to run them. You can't do them in the same thing. So yeah, thank you everyone. Thanks a lot. Bye.